And here we are, Dave. How you doing this evening? Hey, welcome everybody. We're on Just Our Take, politics, opinion, and of course, whatever else we want to talk about. What was it? I don't know. Politics, opinions, and news. Mostly. Well, look it. We have an opinion. Doesn't mean we're right. It's just our take.
Yeah.
Catchy.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I don't admit to being right. I do admit to having an opinion.
Before we move on, we should once again kind of introduce ourselves. I am John. I'm coming from the beautiful state of Montana. I was in the military for 10 years. I did some stuff that was a lot of fun, mostly around data collection. And I also did some computer-enhanced wargaming in Intel. That was a lot of fun. I got to work on things that people just wish they could, and things that you see in the movies. And now I'm just a retired dude. How about you?
Well, I'm David. I'm up in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and if I had to do it all over again, I would have gone into the military. I will be honest, I chickened out after everyone was promising me these incredible trips and special places I'd go and cool jobs, and my spidey senses said, hey, something's not right with this. And so I ended up going to college instead, which is not a bad decision. But on the other hand, I really respect what it means to dedicate some time to the service, and respect you all that much more for that, John. But yeah, life is good otherwise.
If you knew what you probably say, oh, are you kidding? They paid him to do that?
They paid you to do it. Yeah, because all you were doing was cruising around the world on a big ship and playing with computers. I mean, come on. How
647 foot ship with 648 men. So no way to get away from anyone. So yeah. So listen, my week was pretty interesting. We went down to Southern California and rescued a dog that was out of a breeding program that got injured, but this dog needed rescuing. He is what we think, we're not positive, because most of these specialty breeds are mutants. I hate to say it like that, but they are. And this one is sort of a pocket pit. Not sure if you know what that means. It's a pit bull that is about as high as your shins.
Okay.
And it's got some shorty bull in it and who knows what else. The net is he's a cute little dog and he's afraid of the dark. How about that?
I saw the
big scary pit bull. big scary pit bull. Afraid of the dark.
Shadow. That's awesome. Yeah, I saw the pictures. He looked adorable. I can't wait to meet him.
Lots in the news, huh? Lots in the news.
It's there is. So you have two. I guess you have two choices, right? One is you turn it all off, and that means everything, social media, and you would have no idea. You could just live your life blissfully. Or if you choose to actually pay attention a little bit, that it can be overwhelming how much is going on at any one time. And I think that a week ago, some of us were watching the Super Bowl, like 100 million people, no big deals, some astronomical number. But at the same time we're watching the Super Bowl, our government is busy doing an all-nighter to pass a near $100 billion aid package. And you'd never know about it. Like these things, it's just amazing how much stuff is happening every single day, all day long. And that was the beginning of the week. And from there, it just ascended how all the different events and the stories behind them. And these are everything from local to just global incidents. And it's incredible. So yeah, I would say there's a lot happening.
Well, I want to talk about Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin. That was quite interesting.
Do I need to take off my watch for this one?
They were saying he was sending a message about that because I don't know. There was just something about that just seemed a little bit odd. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that first of all, a great job in many respects. I think that he stayed out of the way. He just kind of let the conversation go where it was. He He did jump in there a couple times to steer the conversation, but for the most part, if Vladimir wanted to talk, he talked. And he did. For 35 minutes, he gave a history of the world, which, listen, this guy was former head of the KGB, and he's not an idiot. He is very strategic. So if he was doing that, there's a reason behind it. There's a reason that he wanted the world to know, because, by the way, just a little side note here. I find it hilarious that if you look at CNN's numbers that night, I think they had a total of, what was it, 800,000 viewers. Fox News had 1.28 million. And so far, Tucker's had close to 245 million, maybe more by now. I think he got the lion's share of the viewers. So Vladimir knew that was going to happen too. So he knew that there would be a giant audience for this, and he wanted to tell the story. And I'm just wondering, I mean, look, we all heard what it was about, but what was his ulterior motive for having that story?
You know, I watched the full about 2 hours of it, and I noticed a few things. The first thing that I noticed was, it is a history lesson, and I thought, well, it's interesting. He's starting off by kind of sharing. Most of you are unaware, but our country actually is more than 1,000 years old. And you stop and think about it, right? I think it was first settled around, I think he said 1860 or 1862. I have to look it up. Or sorry, excuse me, 862, not 18, 862. And I started thinking, wow, the people of that area have been in, the geography may have shifted over time, but essentially that area has been whatever you would call Russia 1,000 years ago, Russia. And we look at it today defined by the borders that we have agreed, like these are the borders today. And the people that live there today are, if you're in Ukraine or if you're in the United States, you must be, Americans, right? If you're in Ukraine, you must be Ukrainians. But what we forget is over centuries, the people that have settled in that area were originally part of a different land, a different culture, a different country. And I think that was the lesson, is we actually don't know the history of who was settled there. Why is it important from Putin's point of view, why was it important for him to go and try to liberate, I guess is the only word that comes to mind, the people live in the Donbass region. Now, we have all kinds of opinions about whether that's the right way to do it. It is 2020, well, last year, 2023 or 2022. After all, it's not, 1800, right? So you're in the modern time. These are the borders. Do you have the right to come in and do that? We can argue that, and I wouldn't say you're wrong. But I thought from his perspective, he's saying the people that are there today, some of them have been there not for 10 or 20 or 50 years, but their families have been there for hundreds of years. And they identify and believe they're part of the greater Russian culture, the greater Russian people. And they're not being treated the same as other people who have who are more Ukrainian versus the ones that are more of the Russian blood. And I thought that was fascinating that he would take the time to tell that story.
Sorry, then he talked about at the demise of the USSR. By the way, I served in the military during the time of the Soviet Union. One of my jobs as a war gamer was to be a Soviet specialist. So I knew all their weapon systems. I knew their tactics, their techniques, their ideology, and that was just part of what I had to do and what I had to learn. But anyway, I found it interesting that their perspective was at the end of perestroika and tearing down the wall and the fall of the Soviet Union. Their thought was that they would invite it into NATO, and that's part of what the process was. Boy, if we can get invited into NATO, then we don't have to be in constant war. We don't have to be constantly at battle, and we don't have to spend nearly as much money on as defense. Right. We can spend more money on our own country and our own people. And lo and behold, there were people that didn't want that. There were people that really wanted. And listen, like I said, I'm Soviet specialist. I still continue to learn and follow and try to stay in tune with as much as possible. Excuse me. Putin's a bad dude. Putin's a bad dude. Okay. I think the algorithm got me there for a second. Putin's a bad dude. There's no question.
Right.
I think I've been
Yeah.
the Soviet Union got me. Putin is not a good guy. He's still got that KGB mindset. I don't know what happened there. I think that they do have that laser beam weapon that they can melt your brain with or something. In this case, they just make me cough.
Space
and it had
news.
to be in the middle of a live show. So, woo, that's a good one. Anyway, I am under no illusion that I can talk.
Wow, that's a powerful weapon. I'll tell you, I have more respect now than ever for these military weapons. Here,
Okay. No, I got it. So I'm under no illusion that Putin's a good guy or that he's our friend. But I also believe that he does want what's best for him. And I believe that his original goals when he said he was going to go into Ukraine, I think that those were at least at some level the truth. People that say he's having a tough time fighting the Ukrainian people, that is laughable. If he really wanted to, they could have flattened Ukraine in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. They have the technology, they have the weapon system, they have the men. So that whole process of, trying to be surgical, trying to be, but without getting into trouble.
Yeah.
Without getting into trouble, I think that, there are three sides. There's Zelensky's side, there's Putin's side, and then there's the truth. And I think that for us to just say that Zelensky is 100% right is foolish. And for us to say that Putin's 100% right is foolish. But I think that his whole goal there was to try to educate the world a little bit more on what their goals were. They had their days of being the Soviet Union. I don't think that they want to go back there.
And that's not what I heard. I didn't hear that. Yeah, I didn't hear that from the interview either. What I did hear is this goes back long before the current time. B, over and over and over again, I believed I was making progress with U.S. leadership, and over again, I found out that I wasn't. And I believe it was Clinton. He said, "Hey, if I asked to be part of NATO, would you say yes?" And I think it was Clinton he was referring to, and the answer was yes. And then came back later and said, "Actually, the answer is no. Sorry, you're not welcome." And so now it's fascinating. So and again, I'm so far removed from what would possibly be the truth, right? So everything I say is speculation and hearsay because I have no idea. But
it's just our take.
That's why it's just our take. But if you think back to the end of World War II, should we have said to Russia, yes, you please, we welcome you to become part of NATO. Well, this newly found NATO, which was shortly after the war, and we'd love to be part of it. And they did. How would things look different and be different today? Right? They'd be wildly different. Or let's go back to the Clinton era, if that in fact was true, which no idea, but who knows? But if it was true, and we said yes, and then we followed up with actually, you asked the question, "Are you serious? Do you want to become part of NATO?" And we said yes, and Russia became part of NATO under Clinton's watch. How would things have shaped differently over the next 15, 18 years? I just imagine we would be in a completely different place.
Well, like I said, everything needs to be viewed through the lens of Putin was the head of the KGB. So
yeah, you got to be skeptical. You don't know what you're hearing was true or not, but I agree.
Although I did find it, I was cracking up at the part where he called Tucker out for being a CIA recruit, or at least someone who he wanted to go work for the CIA.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't just the fact that he was calling him out. He was sending a message. I know all about you. I know your background. I know who you are. I know what you're about. Don't think for a second that I came in here cold. We did a full background on you before we ever agreed to this interview. And
I think sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, we have those same capabilities, if not even more. I think that you would be surprised at the level of intel that we are able to get, because back when I was in the level of intel we were able to get was pretty stunning.
I'm sure it's infinitely better today.
It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago, Dave. Don't make me feel like I'm 90 or something.
Back in my day, well, I mean, you think about the evolution of technology, right? So last year we said AI is going to be important. This year, AI is becoming important. 2, 3, 4 years from now, AI will dominate. It'll be a part of everything that we touch that talks to something else. So the how fast things change is pretty alarming today. It's amazing, actually. I'll use that word instead. So I imagine that the technology for spying or being able to gather intelligence is infinitely better even today than it was 20 years ago.
Well, what's really interesting is since that interview, now we come to find out that they've got these killer satellites. I'm sorry, the killer satellites have been around for a very long time.
Nukes in space.
It's part of the reason that Reagan wanted to start. No, it's part of the reason that Reagan wanted to start a Star Wars program back in the 80s. Come on, this is.
I remember.
I mean, do they have more advanced weapons? Sure they do, but it's not new. It's not new that they have them up there, and it's also not new that we know about them. Trust me when I tell you. We know a lot about what they're doing. They know a lot about what we're doing. And these hypersonic missiles, again, been around for a long time. Our ability to create a hypersonic missile is every bit as good or better than theirs. So there's certain things when I hear them on the news, I'm like, they're trolling for more dollars. So.
Right. That was my assumption too. But sorry, before we get caught up into that, just one last thing on the Tucker thing. I don't watch a lot of Tucker Carlson, but every now and then I'll tune in because I'm curious on a topic that he's going to rant about. And I found it really interesting. I almost wonder if it was a bit of a lesson for him on how to have an interview with a person of that stature. Again, not putting Putin on a pedestal, and this isn't me glorifying him because it can be further for the truth. But I feel like it was a little bit of a lesson. It seemed like he came into it with I'm going to interview the same way I'd interview anybody else. And Putin said, hold on, not so fast. I'm going to allow. Exactly. I will decide how this, the next 2 hours or whatever, however this time goes. And I thought that was very fascinating. Good lesson for Tucker. I no idea how that shows up in the future, but I imagine that had he thought ahead of time, how is this time going to go? How are we going to move from topic to topic to topic? I imagine that he probably would have gotten a little more out on the table with Putin, but to me, it looked like he was clearly on his heels for a little bit, trying to play catch up to Putin, and never really had a solid ground footing for the interview. That was my impression, but again, that's my
Putin is nobody's fool. And again, you can never, ever, ever forget the fact that he was a KGB chief. Hey, let's check in on the southern border here. This is the El Paso, Texas border crossing. This is headed into into the US.
Yeah.
This is headed back into the US. There's another camera that would show the pedestrian bridge, which is kind of fun to watch, but and of course it would buffer as we're looking at this.
Yeah, I have walked across that bridge a couple of times in my life. I've spent a little bit of time over in Juarez. It's as a person walking over in the middle of the day, it's not a big deal. I don't know what it's like to be there, live there around, or be there every day. But as a day tourist, it to me didn't feel that different than some of the other border cities.
I don't know. I'm guessing that it might have changed a little bit since you were there.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably been
a little more influence from certain groups that might be.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So there we go. We're
It's
moving
probably
again.
been
So
12, 14 years. But
let's see if I
yeah.
can bring up the other. There you go. So there's our lone pedestrian walking down the bridge. Hi. Welcome back. Welcome home. So, oh, wait.
Nice.
Sometimes they come back and they're clearly intoxicated. This one doesn't seem to be. Sometimes they come back and they are just wobbling back and forth. It's pretty fun to watch. Oh, look, a group here. Is this a stroller?
I want to quote Abbott again. I want to quote Abbott. Abbott said, "No one ever drowned walking across a bridge."
They don't look to be drowning.
So, anyways, yep.
Okay, and there's that bridge. That's the other view of it. So, people headed back. So anyway, yeah, I think we've kind of exhausted the Tucker thing.
Yeah, good. Yeah. My last thought is 200. How many 50 million views? I don't know how many of those, clicked over, watched a little bit, clicked away, clicked over, watched a little bit, clicked away. And I don't know if it's, but if you said it was 50% were, somebody clicking in a second time, or, some people the third time, you're still talking about over 100 million people who tuned in, watched it. And that's just staggering. Like, that's
far more than any of the network news. He hit a home run, and good for him.
Yeah,
so.
That's what I say.
All
right.
What do you say we talk about the interesting case of going on offense? The Trump team going on offense against Fannie Willis. Isn't she the attorney general, or she's the prosecuting attorney? That's what she is, the DA. She
is in trouble. Boy, where do you want to start?
It's almost as, gosh, me, conspiracy theory, John. It's almost as if it was an op to put her in that place to make the other side look really bad. Yeah. First of all, how did she not know, or how did they not know that she was having an affair with whoever is the lead prosecutor in this? I mean, even her friend in the office knew. There were more people in the office that knew. Her father knew. I mean, there's a lot of, if all these people knew, then it wasn't hidden. She made herself look really bad. And by the way, when she's trying to hide the money and make it look as though,
right,
the allegation is that the government paid this prosecutor through her office, and she was having an affair with the prosecutor, and they used some of that money to self-better. Live in the lap of luxury, Belize and the Bahamas, and you name it. I think she said she doesn't even know what continent Belize is on.
Yeah, and why do you care if you're in Belize? You don't even care what continent it is. So, I don't fault her. I don't fault her for that. I mean, I'm on vacation, some beautiful place. I don't really care.
And then,
it's just
So in her desire to further that she was not taking money, as in a quid pro quo, she wasn't taking money for hiring this prosecutor, who just happened to be her boyfriend. She was trying to say, well, I always paid him back. How did you pay him back? In cash. Oh, right. So you have that much cash laying around? I always have that much cash around. My daddy always told me to keep that much cash around. Sometimes I would take money from my campaign and replenish my cash stores. I don't know. Sounds like campaign finance. Sounds like a campaign finance issue. I don't mean to laugh at her, but it was so bad. It was almost comical.
Is that legal?
Yeah, not.
Hey, you know what Fannie taught me? Fannie taught me, people say never represent don't even speak on your own behalf on the stand, even when you're innocent, right? Let your lawyer figure it out. Fannie taught a valuable lesson. Don't represent yourself, and don't go up on the stand and testify unless you and your lawyer have worked it out, because she, I think, incriminated herself, made herself look like a fool, and removed all credibility.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well, and her boyfriend's not the sharpest crayon in the box either. When when he was asked the question, have you and Miss Willis ever been to a cabin? Here's his response. No. Yeah.
So,
well, you know what? It's funny that you would do that, because someone made a meme playing the Jeopardy music in the background of it. He waited so long. Have you ever been to a cabin with Miss Willis? It was the longest pause. It was like,
because what's going through his mind, I'm going to assume that he's an intelligent man, and I'm not going to assume he's not. I'm thinking, if I'm in his place and you just ask me that question, and how I answer it is going to determine my future, my career, potentially my ability to practice law, how I answer is going to change everything. I think that's what's going through his head. If I answer this way, what happens? If I answer this way, what happens? And at the end of it, let me just go ahead and deny it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be proved that, well, actually you did. In which case you lied on the stand, and you perjured yourself. As an attorney, perjuring yourself, I imagine there's probably some stiff rules about that. If they're not disbarred, I will be shocked. I mean, this is beyond the pale for how absolutely unethical the entire situation is.
Yeah. Well, to your point, I think he's sitting there playing 5D chess for a moment with a checkerboard. Really, there were no good options for him in that moment.
Right.
Because as the attorney asking the questions, he already knows the answer.
Exactly.
And he's got the receipts to back it up.
Right. I'm going to get you to answer one way, in which case I'm great. You open the door for this conversation, or this other way, then great. You've now sealed your fate, because I will prove that you lied, and now your career is toast, which it is anyways. I just can't help thinking, okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Yes, she's having an affair with him, and everyone knows, including his soon-to-be ex-wife. All that's bad. It's very dramatic. And let's assume for a minute that actually he is by far the best, most qualified person to be the prosecuting attorney. He's the right person for that, even though he's dating the judge. Now, her job would have been to recuse herself if she felt like he was the right one. She should have recused herself and let him go ahead and be the attorney. But let's assume for a minute she just expected, small town, I'll go ahead and get past this. No one will mind. The money that he was paid probably was not obscene for the fact that they were hiring a firm with several people and all the work the firm had to do. So the dollar amount probably was not obscene. It was probably right on par. The fact that the two of them went off and had time together and he paid for it, it looks terrible. It looks very much like I paid you so that I could benefit 100%. And ultimately that's probably going to be, something that that she gets.
Well, to your point, they also went through and to help make that case, they asked him about his finances. How much did you make in the last 5 years? What was the average that you made in the last 5 years? And now suddenly you've got the money to go on all these elaborate trips. But she paid me back in cash because daddy told her to keep that much cash. I just think that this is going to be one of those things where I don't know how we recover from this. And I thought the judge, by the way, was very fair. There was a time at the end of the day where the attorney that was questioning her was, going back, and the objections were asked and answered over and over again. And he got the judge got a little testy. I don't blame him. I was getting a little bit tired of it too. So some people, I was watching it on live stream, some people were saying, oh, this judge is terrible. No, he was fair. And I think that he'll end up, being a fair judge in all of this, but I don't know how she gets out of this and maintains, like you said, how does she maintain her law ability to practice law, but how does she maintain this case? So they drop this case. Do they bring it up again?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, she very much, from the very beginning had some very strong opinions about the person, the defendant in the case that she was the judge for. Very strong opinions. And we've seen that time and time again. And unfortunately, as soon as you have a judge who already has a very strong opinion about one party at the table, that you're already in the wrong place. We're already off on the wrong foot. So from the very beginning, she was the wrong judge to be involved in this. Okay, but she's involved in it. Then she brought in somebody who was romantically close to her, intimately close with her. That's unethical. I mean, I imagine there's a clear ethics violation on both parties. He knew it, and she absolutely knew it. Then while she's trying to protect herself, which she should have just shut her mouth, honestly. She's like, who's on trial here? I'm not the one on trial here. It's that take the attention off me and back to the actual real defendant in this case. Which shows me that she's got this, there's like this, she's not thinking about this with a clear head. And she's just, what's the word for it? Delusional? I think she's a very smart lady, but it's clear to me that she misunderstands what happened, and she sees herself as being above reproach. Like, what I did was okay, but what that person did was clearly wrong. And look, everybody, let's go back and torch the original defendant. Right. What I did was okay. And she hasn't grasped the reality that what she did was unethical, likely not legal in, I don't know if it's unethical. And in the case itself cannot stand with either one of them as still part of it. She could not remain the judge for that case. And her boyfriend could not remain as the attorney. There's just absolutely no way that case could move forward with either one of them as at the table. So,
well, at the very least, she did open a door for an FEC investigation. So Federal Elections Commission is going to go in, and they're going to see whether or not she did misuse campaign finance. And if she did, now she's going to be guilty of a federal crime.
Right.
It was just, on all counts, it was not a good day for her or her team. So, all right.
But I thank her for the valuable lesson that she taught me, which is don't represent yourself, and also shut your mouth. Listen to your attorney. Do as they tell you. And don't try to hijack the conversation.
Which brings you to who prepped her? Who prepped her?
Exactly.
They had to know these questions were going to come up. Oh, I had cash on hand. Where'd you get the cash? Oh, well, you go to the store, you take $50 out. That's one of the things she said. You take $50 out. Oh, so you have receipts that'll show this? Or can we go back through your... Nope, can't. Because if you do, by the way, when you do a transaction at the grocery store and you have a $26 transaction, you take $50 out, $76, guess what? It shows that you took $50 cash back. You can get that information from the bank. It's not hard to do.
You could go back to see how much you spent at the grocery store, but let's be real. How many of us keep grocery store receipts, especially even? No.
I'm saying the bank. I'm saying the bank has that information. They have the information of how much cash back. The bottom line is we're talking tens of thousands of dollars overall. So you're taking tens of thousands of dollars. And by the way, where are you coming up with that money? I think her job, she makes $78,000 a year. I could be wrong on that. So.
No, I hope she's a judge. Hope she gets paid a little more than that. But
but she's not a judge. She's not a judge. She's a DA.
She's a district attorney. I kept saying judge. She's a district attorney. Yeah, I said it over and over again. Thank you for correcting me. She's a district attorney. I'm gonna hang that guy. He's wrong. I'm gonna get him for election interference, and I'm gonna tie him up in court. I'm gonna send him to jail. I'm gonna convict him, and then I'm gonna take a vacation in Belize. And anyways,
not sure what continent it is, but let's go there.
It doesn't even matter. It's a sunny beach.
It's a sunny beach. So let's move off of this one, because we could go down some roads that we can't come back from. So we should probably go down a different topic.
Where do you want to go?
You had one. What do you want to do? You had one.
Oh. All right. Now,
have anything to do with the building behind you, or no?
It might. All right. So now just imagine I say, let me think. I want to make a point, a ridiculous point. All right. Let's say that you decide to use your home to collateralize. You use your home to go get a loan.
Yep.
And you tell the bank it's worth, let's say, I don't know, $1 million, which is pretty common in Washington. And the bank says, okay, and you do your tax return and you depreciate it based on its value at $1 million. And then someone comes along, a prosecutor, a judge, and says, you liar, that house is worth $10. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. No, it's not. It's worth $1 million. Nope. It's worth $10. And you lied on your taxes. You depreciated it incorrectly. You borrowed money against it incorrectly. You lied to the bank. You committed fraud. But wait, you can clearly see, come to my house, look at it. Clearly, it's worth more than 10. Nope, I am the judge. I have spoken. By the way, I don't like you, and I can't wait to fry you. And at the end of it, you know what? I found you guilty, and I'm going to fine you $360 million plus interest. And also, you are no longer allowed to do business in your preferred city for 3 years, nor are you allowed to sit on the boards of any companies or be a director because you are a fraudster. No, I don't need any evidence that says I'm wrong.
I actually think that he can't business in the state of New York forever, and his kids can't. He can't forever. He's banned forever, according to the ruling.
I'll go look at it again. His kids are 2 years.
But you're even leaving a real key point at this out. So you go to the bank, you get a loan. You value your home at whatever. You pay back the loan with interest. Not a missed payment, not a late payment. Everything is perfect. The bank is happy as can be because they made a lot of money off that loan. Never a complaint. Never a complaint. And suddenly, out of nowhere, some prosecutor, I almost said something else. Some prosecutor says, you've broken the law.
You made a very good point. You missed the other point, but that is an amazing point. The first point is the bank saying, to lend you $1 million, I better make sure that actually it's worth it in case you decide not to pay me. That's the
and
first
in his
thing.
Documentation, he actually said, these are our numbers. Please do your due diligence. And it is, every bank is going to do their due diligence. They will. It's part of what they do.
It is 100% part of the process. And the second part is, by the way, I paid it back. So we agreed. And who are you to say that it was wrong? You who have absolutely no understanding of what commercial property value is worth are going to set the value based on what? And yes,
so there's a house in the image behind you. There's a house right next door that's worth $56 million, and it only has secondary waterfront. So the house is right behind it. There's a roadway between it and the ocean. And the house that you're looking at there, or the resort that you're looking at there, has not only primary waterfront, it has primary waterfront on both sides. So it has the intercoastal way in, it has the ocean. And it's 20 plus acres versus the other one, which is about a half acre. I don't know what the total square footage of that building behind you is. And they're saying the other one's worth 56 million. This one's only worth 18 million.
Exactly.
It's laughable.
Exactly.
It's laughable.
And the real test would be if you put this up for sale for $18 million, the real test would be, what would the market value at? Well, there would be, I mean, look, me included, I'd put a bid in for 18 million, but I would be outbid by the rest of the people who could afford to buy a 20-acre state sitting in that location with with the intercoastal and the ocean. It would probably sell for, some astronomical number, one that's probably closer to what Trump said than what the district attorney said. And what blows me away is there's never a time where somebody was said, if they really were looking for justice, somebody said, can we get some independent evaluators, some appraisals. Let's get a couple of independent appraisals of this property, and let's see what they would say the property's worth. Nope, we don't want to hear their opinion. I will tell you what it's worth. It's worth $18 million.
And even leaving the defendant out, which, man, if you leave him out of the picture and you say, if this were anyone else, you froze, by the way. Oh no, he's gone. So I will fill. If you take anybody else and you put them in, there you are. You're back now. I'm gone. How'd I go away? I'm still here. I am really still here. Trust me. Can you hear me okay?
Casper. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh man, you gotta love it. Thank you, technology. We love you.
I love it when it works.
You.
I laugh when it doesn't, but
I'm gonna leave the room and come back. Be right back.
All right. We'll talk about Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, I dream of owning a 20-acre resort sitting in southern Florida that has spectacular views of the ocean, access to the intercoastal, and just a wonderful place to host the most amazing parties and events, and just it's spectacular. It's glorious. So the fact that somebody could arbitrarily assign a value without having the professional capability of understanding what that value is just beyond me. And I just wonder how many of us in our personal lives, if we were in a similar situation, how we would deal with that problem. It'll be
well, and that's what I'm saying. The people that are go, which I get it. We're talking about a very polarizing figure. But the problem is, if they do this and they get away with it, then what will they do to you? You go through and you withdraw $600 from your bank, and now the government wants to know what you did with that money. And if you can't prove what you did with that money, they close your bank account. Then what?
There's a YouTuber who interviews regularly a fellow who owns a silver and gold coin shop down in South Florida. And I think it's in Florida. Anyways, his bank account, actually his bank just said, "I'm sorry, we're closing your account. After all the years we've been working with you," and I want to say it's more than 15 years, we're closing you down. We're closing out your account. You're gonna need to find a new bank. And the question is why? And it's because he was dealing in so much cash with all the receipts and the who's it coming from and the where's it going and just all the paperwork attached to it for years. And the bank, I guess, it felt it was suspicious how much cash that he was depositing. He didn't withdraw as much, right? Because people would come in and they would buy gold or silver and they'd pay him cash for it. But the bank said it's suspicious. We're being asked questions. And so rather than us stand up and defend you, a decade and a half long customer, we're going to go ahead and just close out your account and ask you to do business elsewhere. It's incredible.
Again, be careful what you wish for. That's what I'm going to say. How about
that? Topical rants. Yes, that was a rant.
No, it's both of us. No, it's frustrating because, again, I go back to the poem, and then they came for me. Look, if they can do it and they can get away with it, they will, and it won't stop here. Everyone's cheering it on. Not everyone. There was a group of people cheering it on, and they're quite happy that they're going to go get this guy, and that's great. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and they can root for the team they want to. But I've been seeing some things lately that the NFL is not on the up. I don't know whether I agree with it or not, but when you start questioning the integrity of the people in charge or the referees, then it takes away the integrity of the game. Yeah.
So it's one thing to say, we want justice. By the way, I agree. If someone broke the law, and I'll even go so far as to say, I don't think even the president's above the law, right? So I heard Trump make those comments, and I understand. I heard the rest of the context, and most people tune out. So I understand the context he put it in, which, I still would have probably used in different words than I'm immune. I have immunity, because that phrase is very polarizing. But so if you broke the law, you should be held accountable. And I think that that's true, regardless of who you are. And regardless of your intent. If you broke the law, and there's a justice system for a reason. But the problem, and I think that we see, is that it is not applied the same for different people. And I think that's the problem. So when you see it applied so liberally in one camp, and you see on the other camp where laws are clearly broken, there's lots of physical evidence, and there's this whole act to try to suppress the story, suppress the evidence. And and then even hear the comments like, God, why are you still talking about that? Just let it go. Right. But at the same time, on the other side, we're going to continue to push until we ram this person off a cliff. As an individual citizen in this country, I'm appalled by that. And I feel the same way, John, which is, if you can decide how to apply justice to people you like and you don't like, then you're no longer applying our laws. It's now an opinion. I decided because I like you, I'm going to treat you differently, and I'm not going to prosecute you. I'm not going to hold you accountable for your crimes. But if I dislike you, you're in trouble. I will throw everything at you. I will make stuff up if I have to, but I will get you. And that is wrong. And that's the part that's just frustrating, I think, for a lot of people today.
I was going to go down a road, and I decided not to. So I'll bite my tongue on this one. Not disagreeing with you. I'm just feeling like there's, if I look at the current temperature of the country and even the world, there's a lot of people that say, there are people that are going after the current administration in that way. So I think if people are being brutally honest and not just hooray for our side, if they're being brutally honest, they would say that right now it's the scales are tipped, and we'll just leave it with that. You had another topic that you wanted to share. We're about 14 minutes shy of a good stopping point for us.
Well, it was a continuation of that topic, but I think I'm going to hold off on it just because there's a lot of sensitivity. I think I lost you, John. You're going to come back.
No, you didn't. I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
It's all about you right now, Dave.
Nice. All right. Well, then I'm going to go there. Hey, I'll just ask the question, and I won't ask you to actually respond or double click into this. But hey, if you were investigated and the prosecutor and the people investigating you at the end of it said, hey, we got lots of evidence here that clearly defines that you willfully broke the law several times. Like, we got lots of evidence. We have lots of instances of it. It's clear as day you broke the law several times. There's no question. We have enough to go and, take it. But we don't think you have the mental capacity to stand trial because you're not in the right place. You're tired, you're feeble, you don't have your memory. There's just lots of things. And so rather than trying to prosecute you, we're going to say we don't recommend that, but also it's because you have a failing memory. You're just not there. You're not mentally fit to stand trial. But then you decide to get up and pound your fist and say, yes, I am. I am mentally fit. I've got a sound mind. I've got my memory. I kind of feel that if you stand up and pound your fist and say, yes, I am of sound mind. I have a great memory. I have remembered it. Yes, I am fit as a fiddle. I feel like what you're saying is, yes, you can prosecute me. Because I am mentally fit. And even though you said I wasn't, yes, I am. Let's get this show on the road. That was
the guy who's headed to the guy is headed to the gallows, and people decide, nah, we're not gonna hang him. His neck's too skinny, and he rants up and down, my neck's not too skinny, hang me.
Yes, it's not. Trust me, it's not. Quit making fun of me. No body shaming, all right?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
man.
it's definitely a weird position to be in, and I'm shaking my head with you. It's it almost sounds like the no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges. That almost sounds like that one.
It's almost the same. No reasonable prosecutor. Yeah, of course. Would you would you try to prosecute in that case? Heck no, not if you value everything that's important to you. The last thing that I thought would be interesting to talk about is we just allocated another $95 billion to foreign aid, and this is really tough. It's tough because there are people in need around the world, but we're going to choose to send, without auditing, another $95 billion out. About $66 billion, I think, is going to 3 countries, with the majority of it going to Ukraine. Israel will get some, and Taiwan will get some. And the money, of course, will be used with our military industrial complex to build weapons and send the weapons over. Maybe there's cash too, but most of it will become arms. And every single time we fund one of these bills, I keep going back to our U.S. debt clock, right? And we are now almost $3 trillion in our sovereign debt. And that does not include unfunded liabilities, which is Medicare and Social Security and a few other things. The interest payment alone this year on the current debt is over $700 billion. That's the interest only. So we have to pay that interest. By the end of this year, we're currently almost 1.7, almost $1.8 trillion in a deficit already, and it's middle of February. At the pace we're on, by the time this year is over, the debt service alone is going to be over $1 trillion, which for most people doesn't feel like a big number anymore, because we throw trillions around like it's no big deal. Except that we only collect $5-ish trillion in taxes, payroll taxes, and my income tax that I pay. So when you start to get to a point where the amount of money you have to spend just on the debt service alone is so high that it becomes a problem. And the analogy that I heard, and I thought it really resonated with me, is imagine for a moment that for you to pay for your monthly bills, let's say your monthly bills are about, let's just call it $5,000 a month, right? You happen to live in a place where your cost of living is probably a little bit better than ours. So let's say you can pay all your bills $5,000 a month. But now you want to go on a trip and buy a new car and spend some additional money. You want to spend about $10,000 a month. So you borrow from a credit card, the other $5,000. Not a big deal.
That's what they're for.
That's what they're there for. But your income is actually only $4,000 a month. Forgot to tell you that. And so the next month comes around, and you've got to pay the minimum $5,000, but you also spent some money on your credit card. You got to make a payment there. And what do is you're like, well, I'll just take some money from the next credit card to pay this credrit card, right? Balance transfer.
Cash advance, baby. Cash advance.
And you keep doing this for a while, and finally you're like, I have $1 million worth of credit card debt. So my basic expenses are $5,000 a month, but I have $1 million in credit card debt, and I have to pay, 2% of that every month. So I have to pay $20,000. And what do? I go borrow more money, and I borrow more money. And eventually somebody's going to say, John, we love you. You've been good about making all your payments, but honestly, you make $4,000 a month. You have personal debt, your credit card debt of now well over $1 million. We just can't give you another credit card in good conscience. We're cutting you off. And now you're maxed out on your credit cards. What do? That's what, in your personal life, if that were your situation, you collapse from underneath the weight of the debt. That's what happens. We as a country continue to borrow from the future, and then we turn around and we do something with that money. To the tune right now, we're over $34 trillion. At this pace, we'll be at 35, maybe 36 trillion before this year is over in debt. And at somewhere between, maybe interest rates come down a little bit. So maybe it's only 3.5% interest to 5.25% interest on that debt. Who is going to pay that back? At some point, it has to collapse under the weight. There's just no way you can continue to print into existence enough money to continue to pay that bill. And so that $95 billion, I'm like, I know people need help. Also in our own country, people need help. We don't have $95 billion. I checked. We don't have any money. We have none.
There's a message from one of our viewers. I think it's tongue in cheek. I'm guessing.
Yeah. And my answer, my gut answer is, you have to cut spending, you have to shrink the government almost immediately, and you have to spur small and medium-sized businesses so that you can expand the tax base without having to tax people into oblivion.
Well, as a former business executive, and I know that you can share this feeling, is that I want an audit. I want to know where all that money's going.
Yes.
What are these weapons you're buying, and what's the effectiveness? What are they doing? Because if you're spending, and I at one point I actually was keeping track of how much money we had sent to Ukraine, and it's multiple times over their annual budget to run the entire country. And so, what are we doing? Because, by the way, I'm not seeing any of the headline news or the embedded reporters or any of the live video from the scene. I saw it for Israel, and you can still see those from Israel. Anytime there's a skirmish anywhere, you can see them. I haven't seen them from there. So I want to know where that money's going, and why do we need another 95 billion or 60 billion, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, it's 66 billion in aid, and a large portion of that's going. But I think that's the question, right? So, is it outlandish to say, can we have an audit of where things are going? Can we make sure that it's being spent on the right activities for the right things? And by the way, yeah, I'll stay away from that. Like, is it going to be successful or not? I have an opinion, but regardless, we should know where the money is going, and we should have a strong accountability for it. But even beyond that, we should look very closely at how we're spending money in general, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions. And the tough decisions, like, somebody is going to feel that it's unfair. Somebody is going to feel that you have disenfranchised one group or another group, or some ecological decision. I get it. But at the same time, if we don't actually take action, then we're putting ourselves in a situation where we're going to collapse under our own weight. And at that point, it won't matter, because we literally won't be able to help ourselves either.
Yep.
That's my rant.
I agree. No, I agree. And by the way, it's a good rant. And at some point we do have to take a look and say, and it's not just that. That's just the most glaring, because the numbers are so massive. But if you took apart our annual budget and these continuing resolutions, the money that's being spent in there is just ridiculous. There's no real good reason for any of it. And it's funny that we tie so much of these things to someone else's pet project. We have a major event someplace in the United States, and they want to send funding there, but we got to have a new water slide put into, my county. That's just, at some point, we got to stop doing that garbage.
A real life example is former president's wife has a trail named after them. And I want to say it was, I think it was $3 million. I mean, I just remember it. It's not $1 billion, but the fact that we carved out taxpayer money to create a trail after a former first lady. Look, you want to acknowledge the former first lady. That sounds great. We don't have $1.5 million or $3 million to invest there. If we had that money, we need to use it for other things that are far more pressing. My humble opinion. No, I don't want my tax dollars to pay for that, because that to me is not a priority.
Yep. Okay. I want to kind of wrap up, but there's a couple things I want to touch base on first. First of all, for those of you that joined us tonight, thank you. If you're seeing it on the replay, thank you for coming in. Please hit that like button for us. It helps us out a lot. If you want to leave a comment, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Please subscribe to the channel. And by the way, if you feel really generous, there's a couple ways that you can donate to the channel as well, and those are in the description of this video. We do plan on setting up over on Rumble as well. We will keep you posted on how that's going. It takes a little bit to get that set up, but we're going to be on Rumble. We will be free to say a lot more of the things that we really want to say over on Rumble. And trust me, Dave and I have no problem saying those things when we are free and unencumbered to do so. Dave, there are a couple things going on right now in the country that I would like to hit on, and I don't think they can wait a week. If there's any way we can do an impromptu, even if it's a half hour sometime midweek, let's work on trying to get that done. It doesn't have to be real big, but I don't know if you've seen, but there's been shooting after shooting across the country right now. There's been some unexplained explosions across the country. There's just an awful lot of things heating up right now, and I think that it'd be poignant for us to just jump in and have a midweek if we can. So if you're watching us again, please be on the lookout for an announcement that we're going to be doing something midweek. I think we need to get together. Let's put together an X page for this Just Our Take. There probably already is a Just Our Take on X, but whatever. We'll make it Just Our Take, our really, really Just Our Take or something.
Really,
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But from my point, thank you for joining us tonight, and thanks for the good discussion, Dave.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Sorry if I got a little edgy for the moment. It is a rant, so thanks for letting me rant for a minute.
Hey, I only got choked up once, and that was when Putin sent his death ray to me, but I avoided it.
Powerful stuff.
All right, everybody.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great night. You guys take care.
Thanks. Bye.